Everybody keeps talking about romantasy, vampires, fallen angels, and dark retellings, but nobody warned me that this book is going to grab me by the throat, slam me into a wall, and refuse to let me breathe until the final page. Because let me tell you right now, The Devil's Shadow is not just a sequel. It is a full-scale descent into chaos, blood, obsession, nightmares, dark humor, twisted mythology, and one of the most adrenaline-fueled endings I have read in a long time. And if you thought The First Sin was insane, you are not ready for what ED Yates does in this book. Let's get it!
Welcome to the Read It and Read Podcast, where we don't sugarcoat anything, no filters, no holding back, just raw, loud opinions. So turn it up and get ready to read.
Alright, today we're going to take a deep, dark dive into The Devil's Shadow by ED Yates, and this review is completely spoiler-free because, honestly, I want every single one of you to experience this insanity for yourselves, alright? So sit back, grab your coffee, your energy drink, your emotional support dragon, whatever you need, because we've got to talk about this book, alright? First off, this sequel wastes absolutely zero time. It honestly picks up directly after the events of The First Sin, and immediately you can feel the tone shift. There's a lot more invention here, there's a good amount of spice. You know, there's trigger warnings, mind them please. The stakes are a lot darker, the atmosphere is heavier, the emotions are sharper, and the entire book feels like a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. And even as a character, as a FMC, she's absolutely terrifying in the best possible way. And that is one thing I have to praise immediately about ED Yates' writing style. The author knows how to create characters that feel dangerous while still making you emotionally invested in every single thing they do. And Eden isn't your standard, dark romantic fantasy female lead. She is brutal, emotionally fractured, she's chaotic, seductive, violent, and somehow through all of that, you still understand her. That is not easy to write. A lot of authors try to create these morally gray characters, and they end up creating these characters who feel edgy, or for the sake of being edgy, or completely unlikable. But Eden walks this razor-thin line, where every scene with her feels unpredictable. You generally never know what she's going to do next. And those are the best kinds of characters. And I also want to talk about one of our MMCs, Lucian, because oh my god, this man makes this book so much better, even towards the end of the book. Because one of my favorite things about this book is the balance between horror, tension, brutality, and humor. Lucian honestly has this energy where he can be intimidating one moment, then absolutely hilarious the next. The banter in this book is sharp, sarcastic, chaotic, and honestly sometimes feel like a supernatural version of a dark comedy mixed with pure nightmarish fuel. And I honestly loved every second of it. ED Yates understands something a lot of dark romance and dark fantasy authors forget. If everything is constantly dark all the time, readers become numb to it. But when you inject humor into horror, when you let characters breathe between violence and tension, when you let personalities clash naturally, that emotional impact hits your reader so much harder. And trust me, this book hits hard. Now, one thing I really want to praise is the atmosphere as well. This book feels alive. Like every scene has this heavy gothic energy wrapped around it. That nightmare is the mystery, the lurking danger, the secrets hiding in the shadows. It builds this overwhelming sense of dread that keeps escalating chapter after chapter. You know that feeling when you get, also when you're reading late at night and you tell yourself, okay, just one more chapter, then I'll go to bed. Then all of a sudden it's 3 a.m., you gotta be at work at 6 a.m., and you're making terrible life choices right now because you need answers, you need to get to the end of the book, and you need book 3, because that was this book. That's exactly how it went. The pacing just deserves so much praise. This is one of those stories where every reveal pulls you deeper into the mystery. Every time you think you understand what's happening, she drops another layer to the story, another secret, another manipulation, another horrifying implication, and suddenly you're flipping pages faster because you have to know who is really pulling the strings behind everything. There is a serious, mysterious element in this book, and it's phenomenal. Without spoiling anything, there is a shadow hanging over this entire story, involving a monstrous force working behind the scenes, manipulating events, controlling chaos, and creating a sense that something much larger is happening beneath the surface. And I was not ready for that plot twist about 7/8 of the way through the book, because when the pieces of the truth start coming together, your jaw is going to hit the floor. I am serious. There were moments in this book where I literally stopped reading for a second just to process what I had learned. That's how effective the reveals are. Now, I want to also talk about one of my favorite aspects of this series, the mythology. If you love dark retellings, twisted religious imagery, if you love stories that remix biblical themes, Genesis-inspired concept, fallen angels, demons, vampires, and Greek mythos into one explosive supernatural cocktail, this book and The First Sin, and the third one that's on its way next year. Hopefully it's sooner, Edie. I really want the third book because of how this book ended, mind you. But this book will work exactly for you. It's amazing. And what makes it work so well is that it never feels lazy. The mythos isn't just there for aesthetic purposes either. It is woven directly into the emotional core of the story. The lore actually matters. The relationships matter. The consequence matters. And the deeper the story goes, the more massive the world begins to feel. And I want to talk about Michael. He's our other MMC for a minute. Again, spoiler free, okay? But the emotional tension surrounding the character in this book is incredible. There's this haunting connection running through the story that creates so much emotional weight and psychological tension that every scene tied to it feels intense. The nightmares, the visions, the emotional pull, the torment. It creates this constant undercurrent of anxiety where you know something catastrophic is building in the underground, in the background as well. And ED Yates milks that tension so perfectly. You can feel the pressure building chapter by chapter. Another thing I have to praise here is the prose. This book is beautifully written without becoming overly complicated. That balance is real hard to pull off. Some fantasy books, drown readers in overly descriptive writing styles until the pacing dies. Other books go into simplistic and they lose emotional depth. The Devil's Shadow hits that sweet spot right in the middle, where the writing feels cinematic and atmospheric while still moving really fast. And trust me, the book moves, especially in the second half. Once a story fully locks in and the momentum starts building, it becomes nearly impossible to put down. The action escalates, the reveals escalate, the emotional stakes escalate, everything spirals into complete madness. And the ending, oh my god, the ending of this book is absolutely explosive, like made me sweat, heart racing explosive, because every chapter feels like it's detonating another emotional bomb that's about to go off, and you are in for a roller coaster ride. The deeper I got in the final stretch of this novel, the faster I started reading, and I am not exaggerating when I say my anxiety level went through the roof in the best possible way towards the end of this book, because the climax is huge, not just action-wise, emotionally huge. It's the kind of ending where you sit there afterwards staring at the wall thinking there is no way I am calmly waiting for the next book. Absolutely not. I need book 3 immediately. Like, inject it directly into my veins immediately, because the epilogue... Oh my god. I'm saying the spoiler free, but trust me when I tell you, ED Yates knows exactly what she was doing, ending the book the way that she did. The final stretch is designed to emotionally destroy readers and make them desperate for the next installment with those twists. And guess what? It worked. Now let me talk about the spice for a second, because I know some of you are wondering, the spice in this book is also, handled very well. There's a lot less spice in the first book. It never feels forced. It never overtakes the plot. It actually enhances the tension and emotional dynamics between the characters, and that's important, because sometimes romantasy books forget they need an actual story underneath the romance and the chili pepper part of it. Not here. This book balances horror, fantasy, romance, mythology, action, tension, mystery, and spice in a way that feels incredibly addictive. And honestly, there's probably the best word I can use to describe this entire series is addictive, because once you start reading, the pacing, the characters, the tension, and the mystery just keep pulling you deeper and deeper until suddenly you've read way more than you planned. And there's another thing I need to praise ED for, is creating such a unique tonal identity. This series genuinely feels different from a lot of fantasy books coming out right now. It's dark without being miserable. It's funny without killing the tension. It's steamy without losing the plot, and it's violent without becoming meaningless. And the emotional energy behind the writing feels authentic. You can feel the passion behind the story. That matters. Readers can tell when an author truly believes in the world that they created, and ED Yates 100% absolutely does that. Now, who would I recommend this series to? Easy. If you love dark fantasy, if you love, morally gray characters, if you love vampire stories with actional personality, if you love fallen angel mythos, if you love supernatural chaos, if you love dark retellings of biblical concepts, if you love emotionally intense romantasy with horror elements as well as humor, if you love books that feel cinematic and addictive, you need to read The First Sin, and then immediately jump into The Devil's Shadow. And as soon as the third book comes out, which I hope it comes out very soon, honestly, you should read it, because this series deserves way more attention than it's getting right now, because it has that rare quality where it feels like this author is building towards something massive, and I can feel the scope expanding with every chapter. And I think the third book is going to be amazing, because after that ending, book 3 has the potential to completely explode this series into something bigger, and something what the first book started it on, and the second book capitalized, and I can't wait for the conclusion in book 3. My final thoughts on the Devil's Shadow is dark, intense, chaotic, emotional, atmospheric, addictive, hilarious at times, horrifying at others, and completely impossible to stop thinking about once you finish it. ED Yates took everything that worked in The First Sin and she elevated it. The characters are stronger, the stakes are higher, the emotions hit harder, the mystery deepens, and the absolute ending of this book sticks the landing 100%. This is the kind of sequel that you want from a series. It's not a boring bridge novel. It capitalizes on the first book, and I cannot wait for it. It makes you want more, and it makes you yearn the way that a bridge novel should. It's one that makes the world bigger while making you even more emotionally attached to the characters. So yes, I absolutely recommend this book, and yes, I will be impatiently waiting for book 3 like an absolute maniac, because I'm nuts. I'm kidding. Because after that ending, to be honest, there ain't no way I'm emotionally recovering from how sweaty I got, which kind of sounds gross, how fast my heart was pounding, because that freaking book, this book was amazing. Like, seriously, go do yourself a favor, go to Amazon, pick it up, follow ED Yates on TikTok, and I need to wrap up today's session in this podcast. And if you enjoyed this review, make sure you hit that like button, go to YouTube, hit my subscribe button to my channel, drop a comment below, tell me your favorite dark fantasy or vampire series, and let me know if you read The Devil's Shadow yet, because I need people to scream about this ending. And as always, support indie authors, support passionate storytellers. Never let book talk be the only thing deciding what you read. This has been the Read It Rant podcast. We don't sugarcoat anything. Read It and Rant is out.